what I'd like to introduce is Kanin Reese. She's going to go over microdata. And if you haven't used microdata, and she's going to cover pumas. And I just, wanted to shout out that the Census Bureau reached out and said that the state data center leads or the state data centers got to have a say in the Puma setting up the boundaries. And so in New Mexico, I got my files, and I was like, I asked you guys all last year, did you have any suggestions? And actually, Mid-Region Council of Governments submitted some suggestions and some corrections that we needed to do. And we were able to incorporate those. But I will admit, I am not a GIS tech. But my daughter actually works for New Mexico Department of Transportation in their roadway inventory program, and she is a GIS tech. So I had her come over to my house like 2 weeks to the due line and show me how to do everything. And then she was like, "No, Mom, you're doing it all wrong. You got to do it this way." But we were able to figure it out and actually submit the changes for New Mexico. So all of the shapes for the Pumas are my fault. You know who to blame. Without that, I'd like to introduce Kanin. She
Susan, wait 1 second.
Oh,
I want to make a statement here.
Go ahead.
Don't panic and try and follow Kanin live. Listen to her. You will get a slide deck, and the slide deck has the step-by-step ways to do what she's doing. Okay, so don't panic. All right, go ahead.
Has been presenting to us on data.census.gov for, 5 or 6 years now, Kanin, and now I wanted something special that you're not going to get tomorrow. I wanted the affiliates to actually, because I think you will get more benefit out of it, on how to use the microdata. Without further ado, here's Kanin.
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, I'm sad that we're virtual. I can't wait to get back in time. But yes, I have been here 5 or 6 years, and I've always been delighted to help. Everyone always has some great questions, and I know that you'll use the data in such exciting ways, especially through our API. Using data.census.gov. We know we talk to many of y'all in our feedback and having questions. But today I wanted to bring to you the Microdata Access on data.census.gov. We call that internally MDAT. So if you see that, that's what this means. And it's not a new microdata, and it's not new PUMS files. It's just a tool that allows you to easily use the PUMS files. So don't think that this is a separate microdata. It's kind of the microdata that's already been delivered and sent to you from Census, but that it's now available in different ways. So let me get started. I'm going to actually take off camera in case that bothers my my demo, and then we'll get going. Okay, hold on. All right. Oops, there we go. So the first thing is, what's the difference between data.census.gov and the microdata? Just to make sure that you're aware of everything. This is kind of some simplifications of things, but the first one is that it's what's being created from our internal files. So the big difference is that's what's tabulated by the employees at the census. Our statisticians have taken the raw data from the collected and tabulated it against our replicate weights. So you have a precision with those margins of errors for ACS data. And so when it comes back, it's been heavily tallied, heavily vetted, and reviewed. You also have a wider range of data sets, so not everything has a PUMS file or microdata attached to it. So, for example, the economic data does not have any, although there is talks of doing that in the future, maybe near future. But right now we don't. It's typically current population survey, the CPS. American Community Survey, ACS, and also decennial. Then there's some of the smaller surveys like SIP and that type of thing that have some older data. One big thing too is that it's limited of the geographies. So you're going to be looking at nation and state in general for being able to tabulate things. And on the MDAT, Whereas on data.census.gov, the things that have been tabulated internally, those are when you can go all the way down to block groups and ACS and, and other ways. And versus what's available with the PUMS files, you're looking at, like I said, nation and state. And then for ACS, we have these PUMAs that Susan talked a little bit about. So from here, also the next thing is, I guess, the in-depth knowledge of variables. And I really want to kind of mention that because that's conceptually very, very different to look at microdata and to try to create your own tables based on variables, as opposed to just picking a topic, maybe a geography, and then finding a table that's already been pre-tabulated. It's not impossible, it's just different. And just want to put that out. And sometimes we've tried to make it as kind of user-friendly as possible. But again, there requires certain understanding of things. So I think that's kind of what we talked about. So what this table does is that you get the raw data that we're working on, and from there you can't just use these individual numbers. You have to then tabulate it, and this tool lets you tabulate it. All right, so giving you an example of what the tabulated data would be different than the microdata. Here's an example of a table, an occupation table from looking at 2019 in Maryland. There's approximately 121,160 males who work in the computer and mathematical occupations. However, what if you're looking, it's a little bit more precision for that. What if you're trying to find specifically web developers? You're not going to be able to find that within the tabulated tables on data.census.gov, but you would for males in Maryland, but you would be able to find that by going to the microdata and kind of tabulating it yourself. All right. Now we've kind of hinted around it, so it's probably a late slide, but microdata does mean PUMS files. We talked about PUMS meaning public use microdata. The public use means that there is no personally identified information attached. It is edited for confidentiality. And then it's also accessible though. So it's not just available on data.census.gov/MDAT, which is the URL we'll be accessing, but you also find it, and we have a microdata API or application programming interface. And then also what most of you who have used PUMS files are probably most familiar with is the PUMS data and the microdata that have been posted on our FTP sites at the Census Bureau. So these aren't any different. You're still creating this, it's still pulling the same data that was before. It's just a tool that allows you to kind of tabulate it. So what happens is you pull these big large data sets or these PUM files from the FTP site, and you have to have the storage on your computer. You have to all of that, and then you have to have the programming software to go ahead and program it, not to mention all of that knowledge to be able to do that. And this allows you to kind of point and click and have the computer do it for you with your intelligence behind it. And the last is the microdata. So we're talking individual responses. It has not been tabulated like all of the aggregated tables at data.census.gov. They are individual responses, so that you have to tabulate it, you have to weigh it for it to be meaningful. Now, one of the big things to start off with are the data dictionaries. So they have posted data dictionaries throughout the survey pages. Here are the links for the American Community Survey, and then also for the current population survey. You can access these, and these really give you a better idea of what the variables mean and how you go through it. Now on our MDAT site, you'll see where you can choose what you're looking for and then be able to see this information from the data dictionary that comes out, like the values. But this is just a nice way, to kind of refer to it. So it's always a good idea to have these available. And here's kind of a more in-depth look at something where you look at age, and you see that age P and age is It's showing you how it's a string variable and that it's top coded at 99 years. We're looking at citizenship, and it shows you the different values of citizenship. 1 is born in the US, 2 is born in Puerto Rico, Guam, US Virgin Islands, or Northern Marianas. So all of these different things, it shows you so that you can take that and say, oh, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for citizenship, and this is how I would then tabulate my table. We're going to show you what that means soon. That doesn't make any sense. Here's just a little bit more about how kind of reading it. The variable name is in the red box. So POV-PIP is our income to poverty ratio recode that has been created. And then whether it's a character or numeric, length of the variable, a little description on it, and any kind of additional information might be added or recoded values from there. Okay, so the best way to understand it is to just jump in, get some examples. We're going to start using the current population survey, just using an example of some common things that we get sent. So we tried to kind of grab those and give you an example to kind of walk you through some typical ways that people use MDAT. As a researcher, I have always like to have the ability to kind of create your own. Some people aren't necessarily looking that. Some people are looking for specific answers that they need, and so they're looking. But the first thing that you always have to do is that we don't want you creating tables from the microdata if the data have already been tabulated, because it doesn't really make any sense. We have, more precision. We have it against our replicate weights. So those are the numbers that you would want to use, and anything else you wouldn't. So here's an example. So we're looking at educational attainment by income for the population of 18 years and over in the United States. Lots of crosses with age is what we get. Lots of questions about that things may not necessarily be. Also here's the current population survey, which is A3, mean earnings by educational attainment. And it does have some basic educational attainment breakdowns of not high school graduate, some like those. But then we're looking and it's like that doesn't necessarily have the different age groups maybe we're looking for, and also the income limits we're looking for. So now that we've looked and said, oh, this isn't, and we're not looking necessarily at mean numbers, we'd like to see the actual counts. And then this is a great reason to go in and look at microdata. So I'm going to switch over and switch to data.census.gov. And it's just on the basic website that we've been on. And there's a couple of ways to then get it. You could go in and edit the URL to take out this SEDSI, which is going away soon, and then type in MDAT. And that'll take you to the microdata access. And then I guess each time I'll show you a little different way to get to the microdata. But this is our main, this is MDAT. This is the main site. And let me actually change this a little so you can see it maybe a little bit better. All right. So from here, first question is you have to select a data set, and then you have to select a vintage. So what we were looking at was current population survey. So I'm going to use this drop down, and it's giving all the options for ACS and the Puerto Rico ACS or Puerto Rico Community Survey, and the 5-year and the 1-year, and you scroll down and then it starts going into all of your basic monthly and that type of thing. But I'm going to look at the March supplement, the CPS annual social and economic. I'm going to pull up that. Then you see the vintage, or what years are available, and I look and it goes down to March of 2014. I can choose any of them. I'm going to just go ahead and choose the latest for ease. So I click on next. Now here's where you see the big kind of differences in what you're trying to look for. Don't let it scare you. We can kind of walk through it. So we want educational attainment by income for populations of 18 and over for the US. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we assume we're going to have a data dictionary, and we've looked at those. So the current population survey has a lot of different income variables. So let's assume you went through and you saw the variables, and you know that the variable we're looking for is the p-tot val. So you can type it in where it says variable. If you know the exact variable name, you go from there and type it in, and I'll show you, of course, if you don't know the variable name, but just giving you an example. So here it pulls up the btotal val is total person's income, and then you see it has one value because if you click on this, it's a string variable, and that's exactly what we are looking for. And from here, we go to this checkbox and you add it. And once you've clicked on it, a couple things happen. First, the data cart now says 1, so that's perfect. That's what you want to see. And then there's a disclaimer up here that says, or it was, and now it's gone, but it did say that basically you're going to have to do a recode with this, and that's fine. I'll show you how to do it. That's not a problem. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and clear what I was doing. The next thing I'm looking for is educational attainment. So you could go and do some drop downs in the filters and try to see. Go down to education, educational attainment, click on this, and then it gives me a few options. So I'm going to look. So it's a current year in school for person, demographics, educational attainment, the A_HGA, and that sounds about right. But what I'm going to do is go all the way to details and click on that, and it's going to show me what's available. So I want to look at this. I'm trying to get a less than high school diploma, some college, bachelor's degree and higher, that type of categories. And I'm looking, and this is exactly what I want. And we'll do a recode to be able to get those nice categories. So I'm going to go ahead, click on that. I see that it updates my data cart. And then that's it for the variables. So I'm going to go ahead, X that just in case. Go to select geographies. Now this throws me every single time. I just want the US. The US is a default. It's not showing right here. So just know if you don't choose anything, it's going to give you the US. So the next is to go to the data cart. This is where we create our recodes. So I'm going to start with age. Wait, did I not do age? Did I do age? P-total val. Oh, I didn't do age. Okay, so let me go back to the variables. And let me go to age. So I can go, I see it right there, but since age is the first one, but I can click on age and sex and see that there's a ton of them because lots of things are crossed by that. But I'm going to look at the demographics for A, that A_age, look at the details. And it gives you a 0 to 85 range in a string, and that's exactly what I want. I click on that. And now I see the data card has 3. Perfect. Go to geographies and go to data card. Okay. So the first, we can go to age. And the first thing we need to do is to create a custom group. So once I've highlighted which variable I want us to work on first, then I come over here and click on the create a custom group. So I click on this. And then from here, I want to do a range of under 18 and one that's 18 and over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the slider to do 0 to 17. And if I don't have really, sometimes I do. Okay, there you go. I could do it. If not, you can just put the number in right there and I can show you that later. So I'm going to put 0 to 17. Then under this group label, I'm going to go ahead and change the not elsewhere classified because that's meaningless to me. And I'm going to put in my own label. And I'm going to put 18 and over. No, 18 and this is under 18. My bad. And then I'm going to go down here and save group. Now what we get are 2. We get an under 18 that we just defined, and then we get everything else. So from here, I'm going to edit this group. And what I want is 18 and over, and this is what that shows. So I'm going to click on this. I want to add that, and I'm going to change this not elsewhere classified to 18 and older. And save group. And now I have my 2 values of my group in this recode, and I'm good. And I look on the left-hand side, and my A_age now is A_age _ RC1, which means that it's been recoded. So I'm good. That's what I wanted. All right, so now I go to the next one, the p-total val. So I click on that. And this is where I It's the total person income. And what I'd like to do is look at under 500 or 50,000. Then I'd like 50,000 to 149,999, and then like 150,000 and above. So those are my basic ones I'm looking at. I'm going to create, and again, this is your table. So however you want to go in and do it, if you'd like to have bigger, or just have 50,000 and up and leave it like that, it's however you want to do it. So I'm going to create it, add it to the group, and I'm going to use my slider. Actually, I'm not even going to bother with the slider because I know I don't have a steady enough hand to do that. So I'm going to put 49,999. And then I'm going to change this to under 50,000 and save group. And now I have my value, and then I have everything else. So from here, I'm going to kind of chip away of this everything else. Edit the group. I'm going to add this group, but I'm going to change it now. I want 50,000 to 149,999. And then it changes for me. Change the label to 50,000 to 149,000. Oops, 999, and save group. All right, and then the next one I have is the not elsewhere classified, and I want to do 150 more. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to add this, and it's already done because it's 150,000 plus all the way up to the top. And then I'm going to type in 150,000 or more. Okay, and save that group. Now I have the 3 values in my recode, and I'm happy. I'm going to go and I look and see on the left-hand side that it's been added as a recode. And now I'm going to work on that age, A_HGA, which is our educational attainment. So kind of like here, I go in and I do the same thing. I go in, I create a custom group. And then I wanted that under high school or no high school diploma. So I'm going to go in and manually click everything that I wanted. So children, 1st grade, 5th and 6th, all the way up until 12th grade, no diploma. And I'm going to call that less than high school diploma. Scroll down. See, I have the rest of them. So I'm going to save this group. Kind of get the same thing where it's the not else, it's all the leftover. So I'm going to edit that group. And now I just want high school. So I'm going to click on just the high school, rename it high school grad, and save that. And then chip away again. Edit the group. Now I just want some college and or associate's degree. So click on those. Change my label. Save the group. All right, and then the last one, I want bachelor's degree or higher. So I'm going to edit this group. See that everything's there, the bachelor's, master's, professional, school degree or doctorate. I'll click on that. Change this to bachelor's degree or higher and save group. Now I have my recodes, my 4 category values in this recode. And then I look, scroll down, it's been added as underscore RC1. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create my table. So go up to the top, click on table layout. And the first thing I do, because I always forget, is the values. We don't want the value, the average of the income. We want the count. So I'm going to click over to count. And then I'm going to start making my table. Now you can make your table however you want it to look like. I am thinking I want to put the income in the columns and then the age and educational attainment in the rows. And you can look as we add them, they start start coming up, and you might say, I don't know, maybe I want the age above this. And then you see all under 18. And then you see the numbers before. However you want to do it, it's fine however it's done. Oops, you know what? And I could see I'm not doing, I wasn't doing my recode. If you look, it's A_HGA. Now I have each individual line, but not my recode. So I'm going to take the recode off the table. Excuse me. Take the value off the table, put my recode in. And now that looks better. Now it has my recode in. But see how it gives you just a lot of different options. For research purposes, I very often don't do any kind of recode so I could see and I kind of recode from there. And I'll show you an example of doing that later. Anyway, here's what it kind of looks like. From here, you can go in and see we did the count, and then I'm going to view table. On the bottom right, you look, it shows the weighting. It gives you a March supplement person weight. You have the option of changing it. I wouldn't suggest it, but it gives it to you, and that's the nice thing. A lot of these things you just have to, you know, hope that people are doing it correctly, hope that people are showing it. But here's the here's your information from here. And again, you can go back in and make some changes, change the data set, change the year, and nice kind of ways of going in. One thing I really do like to do is to go in at the top right, you can share, you can download. If you click on this download table CSV, you can click on that. And let me open this, show you what it looks like. You have to, thanks to Excel, you have to kind of smush them, make them look well, but at least it's here. And then also the thing I really like too is that you can share it, because a lot of times we create a lot of these things and then we want to go back to it. So I'm clicking on, and then from here, I'm going to go to, of course, I've got this presenter thing. Let's see if I can move it. There we go. Here we go. And then go from there, and you can pull up the same thing and it pulls. And so it's a nice way to kind of go back and check things and edit them if you'd like to. All right, so that's enough of that one. I'm going to go from here. I'm going to click on this, a couple of things. You can click on this microdata and the breadcrumbs and take you back to the main thing. We'll just do that, and I'll show you some other ways before. So let me pull up our next. And this is what Barb was saying about all these background slides. All right, from here, next one is the second example. Is language spoken at home by age in New Mexico. And this is, again, one of those kind of research ones that I think is always really, really helpful. So language spoken at home by age in New Mexico. We pull up a table because, again, we don't want to tabulate something if it's already been created and available in data.census.gov. So we look at the detailed household language, but it doesn't have it by age. So again, this is a big one, a reason why people do that. There's a lot of time 18 and over cutoffs. Sometimes there's 40 or 50 and people are looking at, so this is a great reason to go ahead and flip on over to the MDAT and we'll start our look. So the ACS is where we would find the information about language. And so from here, I'm going to go for the 1 year. You could choose the 5 year if you wanted it. It would just change it would be just kind of more robust, but it still allows for a 1 year. And then you can choose whichever year you'd like. I'm going to all the way down to 2004. I'm going to stick with 2001 and then switch over and press next. And again, you see the same thing. You see the, excuse me, the table where you have to choose your variables. So the two things we're looking at are language and age. So we can click on this. We did age and sex. We see that age P. Look at the, always good to look at the details to see exactly what you're looking at. This one, it does show you that it's the 1 to 99. And a little different than CPS, it does have an under one separate category. So that's perfect. That's what we want. And we click on that and it gives us the disclaimer that we're going to have to do a recode. But again, that's fine. We're not scared of that. We know how to do that. All right, I'm going to do the drop down again. And I'm going to look at what they have for a language. So different ways you can go in and look at things. You can find language. Here we go. Language spoken at home. I'm going to click on that. And then I have a few different options. So there's ability to speak English, household language, language other than English spoken at home. But we're looking at more of, let's see what that is, the LAN-X. If we click on that, that just means whether someone speaks or does not speak a different language at home. But what we're looking at are those, or looking for are those different languages. So I'm going to click on the one that says language spoken at home. It has 131 values. And that's exactly what we're looking for. So all of these are Portuguese, Irish, Greek, all of those are available. And again, this is a great one for me to not necessarily do a recode, just to kind of see what the data provides, and then you can go back and do whatever you want. All right, so I did that. I chose, so that one was chosen. Let me scroll up. And then I see my two are in the data cart. And those are the two that I needed. I'm going to go to select geographies, and let's look for it by state. So let's look for New Mexico. Scroll down to New Mexico. Let me click on that. And then again, the same thing. You go to the data cart. We're looking at under 18. So again, the same thing that we did before. So did age recode. We're going to go ahead and go down to 17. Oops. There we go. Change this to under 18. And I'm actually going to also check, which was different than the CPS because they didn't have the distinction with under one, but I'm going to add that too, and then save the group. So I get under 18, and then I get all elsewhere classified. And I'm going to edit that one, and I'm going to just keep the same thing and do 18 plus. And again, it's your table, so you can label it whichever way you want to. Save the group. And now I'm going to go to language and just show you that right now I'm not really sure. I'm going to use it just kind of an exploration. So I'm not even going to create a custom group or anything. I'm just going to move to the table layout and see what it gives us. So I'm going to move to table layout. It'll give you the average age or the count. I'm going to go for the count. And then you see this kind of default that's being given. That kind of looks okay. I'm going to take I guess we could take the geography out. I guess you'd want to put the geography back in. We don't have it, but we need to put age in there somewhere. So hold on, let me see. Age up here. That's when we could take the geography out because it's only in New Mexico. We've already limited the universe to just being New Mexico for geographies. So it doesn't have to be on our table. It gives us a little bit more room for the crosses. So from here, then we've got language spoken at home, and then across we have under 18 and then 18. And then we go down and see all of the different things available. We've got different scroll bars, and that's can be very annoying, but you know, love to hear your feedback as always. And I'm going to click on view table. Again, you can make these changes. You could change from here, you could move things around if you didn't like the layout. But from here, it gives me the age up on top, and then it gives you from the language. So you see some big numbers and you see some zeros. So there's definitely, you know, Jamaican Creole English isn't as popular as, say, you know, German. But different ways that I like to go in, and if you're trying to really figure out what's the most, you know, interesting thing or what kind of screams out at you, this I think is a great way to kind of do that and be able to look. You could always go back in and then decide you want to do some recodes and, you know, customize the variable or do something else. And you could go back in and do some recodes for the language if you like to. All the same, however you'd like to do it. But I think this is a good example of kind of trying the data out and seeing what kind of speaks to you. Now from here, I'm going to go ahead and click on this logo, and it's going to take me back to data.census.gov. But from here, there's a couple of ways. Right here on the top right, you can click on microdata, and it takes you back. Always different ways of doing it. So from here, I'm going to go to our next question. Example 3 on slide 56. Here we go. All right. So we're going to look at poverty by age for New Mexico Pumas. These are we get lots of poverty questions for MDAT. Just looking at different ways to look, and I'm going to show you the Pumas, a little bit of what Susan talked about, and we can definitely talk more about, but yeah, what she had mentioned that the state data centers have a hand in choosing those to make that makes most sense for the state and the kind of the congregation of people in different areas. So it's great that we have it. You can always look at our Tiberger web to be able to visually see it, but I think that, again, the state data centers have done a great job in kind of naming them, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, but the first thing is poverty by age for New Mexico Pumas. And then we look, and then we see, okay, great, we do have a poverty by age breakdown. It may not necessarily be the age breakdown that we were looking for, but it's there. But the bigger thing is that they give us predefined categories of the income, the ratio of income to poverty. And that may not what we were looking for. So maybe we were looking for something like, excuse me, something like 250% of poverty or something like that. Those cutoffs kind of change things. So let's look at that and show you a different way of looking. So I go back to MDAT. Again, we can choose whatever year we want or the data set. I'm just going to go and stick for time purposes with the ACS 2021 1 year. And then from here, we talked about it was age and poverty. So we already have seen age over and over and over. It's the age P. So it's the first one that comes up. So I'm just going to go and click on it. We know that it's been added right there. Then I'm going to go down and look at poverty, or I could even type in poverty as a label. So you don't have to know the full label. You just have to know word or words that are in that. So I pull up poverty and POV-PIP comes up. Let me see what that is. And it's a recode that gives you below 501% poverty, not in universe, and then above. We can work with that because it's a recode. So I'm going to click on this, and it's been added. Next, I'm going to go to my geographies and look at the Pumas. So that's the public use microdata areas. I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to choose New Mexico. There it is. Now, if you'll see, they've been named beautifully so that you really do have a good idea about where they are. It's really, really very nice that you can go in and kind of have an idea of what you're looking at. Even something that's not necessarily, Southwest New Mexico, as opposed to something that's super specific, more like these are the Albuquerque. So even if we chose maybe all of the Albuquerque ones, we could. And you can always, of course, go back in and adjust your geographies, but this is kind of a nice way of using the wording to figure out maybe what you're looking for. And then I see it's been added. I'm going to go to my data cart. And then I'm going to work on my recodes. First, I'll start with the age one because it's pretty basic. I'm just going to do an under 18. So we've done this before. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to actually just type in 17, make sure I've added my under 1, and then do under 18. Save this. And then I'd like to kind of like a young and adult. So I can just chip away at this not elsewhere classified and do 18 and just move to 24. And then 18 to 24. Oops, it's not 24, 24. Again, however you like to do it, I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to actually use the rest of this not elsewhere classified. And I'm going to do groups of 10. And there's an easy way of doing it, this auto group. If you click on this, it gives you a few options. And I'd like the between 25 to 99 is the one I'd like to auto group. So I click on this. And then I see it starts at 25, ends at 999. And then groups of what? Do you want groups of 1, 5, 10, whichever? I'm going to go ahead and just do 10. And I'm going to click on auto group. And you see that it just makes those little groups for me instead of having to, individually do it until we get to, we don't have 10 anymore. And then it just gives you 95 to 99. So nice kind of easy way of being able to do this. My auto group's done. My recode's done. Now I'm going to do my POV-PIP. So the poverty variable, I clicked on this one. Kind of the same thing. I'm going to create a custom variable. First thing I'm going to do is use the NA because that is not in universe. And so I'm going to define that. Oops, universe. There we go. Save that group. And then same thing with the not elsewhere classified. From here, I'm going to look at something that's below 250% poverty. So I'm going to go down to 249. I'm just going to have to, I can't do it. I'm going to have to type it, 249. And then I'm going to type that in, that this is below 250% poverty. And I'm going to save that. And then this not elsewhere classified, I'm going to click on this. And I'm going to click on add the group. And I don't need to change anything because I want 250 to 500, but then I also want this 501% or more. So I'm going to click all of it, and then I'm going to change this to at or above 250% poverty. And save it. And I have my 3 values. I have my age recode. Now I can do my table layout. And here, all of these geographies are trying to sit on the row. I'm actually going to try to get them on the columns, because that's Census Bureau likes to do it that way. That's what I like to do too. So from there, I'm going to do put the age in, and then see how I want to look. I need to get my poverty recode in too. So how do I want it to do? Do I want to do maybe not in universe and then have the ages underneath it and then before? However you'd like to do it. And it's nice that you can move these things around kind of easily to make it seem however you'd like to see it. Anyway, if you'd like to see it in little groups of under 18, any way you want to do it. And then from here, again, I got to say count. And then I'm going to view table. And then it brings it up. And it shows all of your individual, all the pumas that you assigned, and then the estimates that go along with it. So just note that again, we talked about kind of precision, that it's not against our replicate weights. So we don't have margins of errors calculated against this. This isn't, it does not have computing or computational. It's just, kind of reordering and creating these tables for you. So just something to be aware of. All right, I'm going to go into the very last one. I think we have a few minutes, but this one isn't too long. That's an 83. Here we go. And this one is type of disability for the population 40 and over for New Mexico. So we do have a recode that just says, do you have a disability or not? No disability. But then there's the individual, impaired vision disability, self, all of, all of the different types of disabilities, and we'll look at those in a second. But I'd like to look at those individual ones. And again, this to me is a little bit more of the research type, or you could look at it that way, or maybe you've got these individual ones you're looking at, but I'll show you. Okay, so again, I'm going to see, looking at 40, that's one of the cutoffs for those ages that happen quite frequently that people are looking for, and they just can't do it because when we do ages, you know, we break it up by male, female most of the time, and then we do like under 5 to 17. You don't have something that's a straight 40 and above, or 40 and under, or under 40 and 40 and over. We don't have those. So this is a great opportunity to use Microdata Access. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to clear it all out and show you the last way that you can find the Microdata Access. If you go on the main data.census.gov page and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, oops, not that far, almost the bottom, and it says Access Microdata. And then there's a little button that says Explore Microdata, and you click on that, and that'll take you to the MDAT page. All right. So from here, we can choose the same thing. Always option to change different years if you want to, but we're running out of time, so let me go ahead and just choose the same one. We click on Next. We do the same thing. We know age. We've talked about age over and over. That's, you know, a big variable we typically use with that. So I'm going to click on this. We see it's been added, the age P. And now I'm going to look for the disability. So we could go down here. We can see what's available under disability. You could also type in disability and see what comes up. Or disabilities and see what comes up. Sometimes I have to kind of play around with it a little bit. I'm going to go in and just click on disability and see what does come up. And then you're going to see a few things. So we have the self-care disability, ambulatory, cognitive, independent living. Then there's that straight disability recode we talked about, but we're not looking at that. We're looking at the individual ones, and we like a little bit more information. So I'm going to click on each of these individually. One, hearing, vision, independent living, cognitive, ambulatory, and self-care. And we look at those details, what they say, it's just the yes or no, or, you know, NA. And that's fine. That's exactly what we're looking for. And I look and see that all 6 of them have been added to the data cart. Perfect. Now, I don't think we need anything else. I'm going to go to just pick up state, New Mexico. And then click over to the data cart. I'm going to do 40 and over. So I'm going to use this age P and create a custom group. And then I'm going to do 1 to 39, see if it does it better for me this time. It does. I can do it. All right. And then I'm going to click on the under 1, click on this, and do under 40, save group. And then everything else that not elsewhere classified, I'm just going to call this 40 and over. Save group. All right, so I have my 2 values, and then I have all of these individual variables, but maybe you just don't want to aggregate them all together, or maybe you just want to see what's available. So I'm just going to switch over to the table layout and see what it gives me. So show you how you can do this and kind of use the table for your advantage. So again, I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it count, and then don't let it scare you when you first see it. So I'm going to take all of these, all of the disability variables, and I'm going to take them all off except for 1. I'm going to put them not on table so that you can look at each one as a table. As you can put the geographies there, and then the age. Where do we put age? Where's age? Oh, there it is. The age. And so whichever way you want to do it, if you want to put that as the columns or even put the age in the columns, however makes most sense for you. So I have age in the columns for 40 and over and 40 and under. And then I have hearing difficulty in New Mexico, yes or no. And then from there, I can go in and view table. And the nice thing from here is that since you have the values already chosen, you can switch them off right here if you wanted to. If you wanted to go in and say, okay, now I'm going to look at self-care and then pull that out. Because it's all part, if you end up downloading and sharing, you're going to save all of those. So that's a nice thing for sure. If you copy bookmark, you go in here, oops, and then it's going to pull up all of those variables that you saved from the table layout, and just a nice way of going in and being able to have the option of pulling things and seeing what you get, but then not necessarily having to kind of start and recreate the wheel all the time. All right, so I know I wanted to give some time. I know my colleague Alexa's on the line. I'll show my last screen, make sure if anyone has any questions, they know where to go to. And then I'm gonna go from there and see what Susan has to say.
I always have things to say, right?
Good things, good things, good things.
And I think I've made this comment before. Every time you show MDAT, I go, oh, you can get CPS out of there too. And if you've tried to work with CPS and you dive into it from the BLS website, it's got different ways that they tabulate it. And it's nice that we can actually work with it here on that. And thank you for doing that second data poll, because I literally have a customer that every year asks for the language stuff because they use it to determine if they need interpreters or not for certain areas. So that's an important one. That's
a great one.
And then I just commented, I have a customer who asked for 133% of poverty. I have no idea where 133 comes from. Just it's the number that they use. So, you know, those poverty estimates are always very fascinating to me.
There are, because each area has certain thresholds that they, you know, provide monies for. And so it's really nice. I always send people to this because, you know, we tabulate data. We just kind of are trying to hit the best mark or the most common or what people are asking for. But it's really nice to be able to see those above poverty, but still definitely needing a lot of resources.
Cool. If anybody else has a question, feel free to just unmute and ask, because we're small enough and we're getting ready to do an hour break here. So probably be better than typing it all out.
I have a question. Is there a citation you'd like us to use if we ever use that data? And to Susan's point, if we're pulling something regularly, is there a way in which you're able to bookmark that or save that or something of that nature to make it where it's easier just to click a button and run?
Yeah, definitely. On that final page, I think I stopped sharing for a second here. I can show it back up. Let me see right here. If you go at the top right or download and share, if you click on this and it says copy bookmark, from there you can copy the bookmark and then paste and go, and it'll take you to that. Take it a second. Sometimes you have to click on the next, but it'll take you to the same with your variables, which is really nice. You know, once you define things, it's nice to have it and tuck it away.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just to share, I certainly have used MDAT to pull down the PUMS data for a couple of big projects, because it's just a really easy way to access this data.
It really is. And I know people, before this, you know, when I was an analyst, I definitely struggled to try to, you know, put it all together. Even, you know, even sometimes when I had, you know, there's a lot of push for it to be even internal. Can we have this for when we have the full files and that type of thing? It's just, it makes it really easy. And I've definitely had a lot of people who are not necessarily microdata people just like to play with it. It's kind of a fun thing to do, and really I don't know, I like the exploration factor of it. You know, you don't necessarily know what's the most interesting, and you can kind of get into a rabbit hole of kind of playing with the data, and that's the greatest thing about data, to me at least.
Well, thank you, Kanin. A good presentation as always.
Anytime, Susan. Very nice. Thank you so much for having me.